Good morning, everybody. It's Mahmoudi here again. So today's day 37 of these sessions that I'm putting on to help people with the COVID-19 crisis. And so yesterday I began a new series on ritual and devotion, and so we looked at some rituals that we did here in Manchester, around Manchester Buddhist Centre. But before I start, just say in all that, I think hi Dynamite. I'll just say a little bit about how I'm doing. So yeah, it's yesterday I did a session in the morning, and that went okay, and then had various things to do, and after that, and then had the idea of doing a puja, like a short puja, threefold puja, and so we did that 12:30, and I think there was 6 of us, and it was great actually. It was just connecting with people in this group. Also, I sent an invite to my friend Tony Thorndike, who used to be at the Manchester Buddhist Centre, and he's a real fan of puja. So yeah, it was great to just have him in there and just say hello and things. Yeah, and I felt really connected to the people as we were doing it. And at the end, it was a bit like. It sort of it ended a bit abruptly, or somebody started talking across the group a bit, and it was a bit jarring. And I think sometimes what can happen, when we create a space. So today's topic is creating a sacred space. So it's like we create a sacred space for something to happen something to happen, and then we need to protect that space. So it's like not to just start talking like immediately get into sort of animated dialogue that immediately after coming out of a devotional ceremony, and yes, it just jars people. And sometimes I've had the experience around Manchester Buddhist Centre of like people just being a bit inappropriate, and it ruins it. It can ruin it for everybody. So I want to talk about creating a sacred space, and So how am I? Well, yesterday, yes, after doing the puja, I think I've tried to have some space to myself, and of course, I'm on my own in my flat, and here I am again, another day, week 6 of being on my own in my flat, apart from going to the shops and all that. And I think I just hit a bit of a wall, yesterday, and it just kind of hit me that this might go on for a long time, and I just sort of thought, everybody's in the same situation really, and somebody was sharing about they're on their own in Wales, and they've been there for 6 weeks, and so no matter what we've got in terms of our practice and what things we do, meditate, devotional practices and things like that, in a way we're still in the same situation. We're still facing the so you might have a romantic idea that Buddhist practitioners might go off and live in caves and have this like wonderful wonderful peaceful existence up in the mountains, and they learn how to develop inner heat so that they don't get cold in the snow and all that sort of thing, you know. But often the reality is something a bit different. So I remember this friend of mine who was part of the Manchester Buddhist Centre building project, and he was always like very much into like Tibetan Buddhism, and I really admired what he did. So he thought, I want to go and live in a cave. I want to do a proper, you know, Milarepa, you know, live in a cave, and not all the time, but to do a retreat. So he basically set up this structure whereby he got some people to support him, and so basically they ferried a load of provisions up this. Well, he basically went up into the Pyrenees. So he kind of he found a cave up, you know, high up in the Pyrenees. You know, I don't know how many thousand feet, but quite high. And then he got a group of people to ferry up provisions for him. And like the first time he did this, you know, and I think he might have been there for about 3 months or something. It was that like blissful, oh, this is great, you know, like it kind of worked, you know, and yeah, so that, you know, so yeah, that, and it was dead impressive. And anyway, what happened was like he did it again, but the second time he did it, it just didn't work at all. It was like what happened was the cave was just dripping water on him all the time, you know. And, so it's a bit like it happened to me. I mean, I went to America in 1974 and I hitchhiked around and had this kind of amazing kind of time. Like, you have beginner's mind, you think, oh yeah, it's all, everything's new, and you make a lot of effort to engage in with it all. And you know, it was an unbelievable trip I had around America. And then I went back 2 years later to California, and I just felt a bit depressed all the time, because I don't know why. Expectations, maybe, you know, we have expectations, and then you know, they confound us. So anyway, why am I saying all this? I've forgotten. Yeah, no, yeah. So yesterday, so we will come up against, the point I'm making is that we will come up against difficult mental states, no matter what we do, in what situation we're in, and how ideal it is or whatever it is, you know. So that hit me yesterday. I just felt a bit depressed, and you know, that sort of thing. And I was looking at the DVDs that I had, and I thought, well, you know, maybe I should watch a DVD or something. And there was, but I'd got a few out of the library that were a bit more art house movies. And anyway, so I watched one called The Turin Horse. It's a Hungarian film, and just about this farmer and his daughter. And this basic story, it was just their everyday life, just studied in real detail. It's just everything just took forever, you know. Like, the daughter's putting her dad's clothing on him. You know, he's got one arm doesn't work very well, and everything is just like the same every day. Gets up, gets the horse out, puts the horse on the cart, goes off to, you know, and every day they just eat, like, their food is basically a large potato that they eat with their hands, and they just pull the skin off, and he eats it like, you know, like this. It's kind of really hot and stuff, and then looks out the window, is, you know, evening entertainment, looking out the window, and then goes to bed, you know, and then gets up, and then just what happened is basically the horse starts to not eat, and everything just falls to bits gradually, and So I won't give anything else away. But basically, they just fade. They just fade out in a way. And I remember like being very, when I was at school in the sixth form, I was doing science. I did all science A levels, and we had an English teacher. We had something called general studies, and so we had an English teacher who tried to do something with us scientists, and he says, "Well, I don't know if it'll do any good, but I'll give you a list of authors that you might consider looking at." So I took that, and I actually started looking at Solzhenitsyn's Cancer Ward and First Circle, and I really got a lot out of that. But a lot of the Russian writer, but a lot of his work is all about, it's about kind of often, people sort of struggling in, difficult circumstances, and in Russia, under Stalin and all that. And something in me, somebody once said about me, that I'm a peasant at heart, it's like I kind of resonated with that simplicity, like, oh yeah, don't expect too much, like just be ready. Be ready when things collapse. Anyway, so I suppose that I kind of found a bit of solace in that film, really. We have our fancy ideas and all that, and then, but in the end, like mindfulness comes down to coping with whatever's in front of you, and being. I mean, the daughter and the father were just, the relationship was just really unspoken, but they were very enmeshed in each other's lives, and in a quite very sort of dignified, kind of quiet way. They just got on with everything, and they both knew what they had to do all the time, So yeah, so I was saying that I felt a bit glum and all that yesterday, and I felt a bit like that this morning when I got up. And so I'm not as prepared as before, because I thought, it's a bit hard to think straight or something. Anyway, so I've had the idea of the theme creating a sacred space, and so I'll just say a little bit about that first. So this is an artwork in Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London by Patrick Heron, who's an artist from St Ives from the 1950s, 1960s. And it's a load of hanging. It's some banners, and they're hanging down an atrium in the hospital. And that hospital is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's a bit like they built the hospital around art, So everywhere in the hospital are artworks, paintings, sculpture. There's big atria, and there's right in the middle of the hospital is one of these non-denominational kind of like religious spaces, where anybody can go and be quiet and connect with their own religion. And there's some paintings by Maggie Hamling in there that and I just thought, well, this is a really good example of like creating a sacred space. So you create something that's beautiful, and is kind of like, there's a sense of when you enter into it, something else is happening than the normal. So when we have like a bell, in a meditation, somebody rings a bell at the beginning of a meditation. It's a similar thing. It's like saying, this is the beginning of something different, and then you have the meditation and you have the bell at the end. This is the end of that thing, So it's like, and at the Manchester Buddhist Centre, we've got a big building that's 5 stories high. It's a warehouse we converted. And on the first floor, we've got 2 shrine rooms, a large one and a small one. So we try to kind of like get people to be quiet on that floor, so not come out of the shrine room and then just start talking. It's a temptation, I know everybody has it, but so it's like we're looking to create a space within which something different happens. So on Buddhist festivals, I've been involved in quite a few creating festivals at the Buddhist Centre, especially about 15 years ago or something. So we would try and create a sacred space. So here's an image of the front of the Buddhist Centre. So this was one year, kind of made a bit of an entrance like that. And this was on, I think it was probably on Buddha Day, which was the anniversary of the Buddha's enlightenment. And then just doing a special kind of shrine. So I made a moon there, and covered the whole back wall of the Buddhist Centre in blue cloth. So here we've got some blue cloth behind. So the blue represents emptiness or conditionality. The fact that everything is dependent on conditions and disappears when those conditions disappear. So it's like the Buddha appears out of conditions. Enlightenment appears out of the conditions. We can create Buddhahood out of conditions. And here's some other shrines that people have done. And this year it was made these like big gold leaves that went behind the Buddha. So I think just making the effort to transform a space. What I think one thing is, it's like there's the idea of what we value, we adorn. I often give the example of an iPhone being an example of what we value, we adorn. So the Stephen Jobs, he brought design into computation. So basically, everything started to be designed in a way which was friendly to people. So that the first windows that you had in where you could put things in little windows and drag them about. Early Macintosh desktop design. Made it just really easy for you to do it. To manipulate things, and it's just got more and more and more like that. So in a way, and like same with architecture, like modern architecture, it's like beautiful spaces, beautiful aesthetic spaces. People have just more and more put effort into, in the secular domain, put effort into kind of bringing design into everything. And I think this has come about through the influence of modern art, in the 20th century. Gradually, those minimalist ideas have come through, and there's the idea that sometimes you just look at the space. It's like very much about looking at space and colour and that sort of thing. What else shall I say? So when we have a festival, it's like kind of mark it by making the space beautiful. And at Butterfield Festival, Padmapani and Dharmamati, who's watching here, do the shrine route, make the shrine tent, and what a fantastic job they do, so it's really beautiful, and there's a little kind of garden there, plants, and sometimes like a little pond, and so you come in and you just see the care that's gone into the whole thing. And then when Padmapani often paints a long picture that specially for that festival, and we have pujas that, a particular puja focusing on particular bodhisattva figures, and that becomes the highlight of people's Butterfield Festival. Right, okay. So let's do a little bit of body work and then a bit of meditation, and then I'll see what happens after that, because I'm not quite sure what we're going to do after that, but we'll do something. Okay, so if you all stand up and just begin by drumming with your fingers on your head. So maybe imagine just putting your mind somewhere else on the other side of the room, and what we're doing here is we're just trying to connect with our body. Rub your hands together and up your arms. Generate some heat. And then just put your hands over your face. And do it again, more heat. Don't seem to generate much heat today for some reason. And then just put your hands over your face. And then just put your hand in, your elbow in your hand, and then just go over the top there. And just trying to sense what your body would like to happen. And just being patient while you try and wake yourself up. And then the other side. And shake everything out, shake your hands out, feet out, head. Does make a difference. Take a few deeper breaths. Maybe just jumping up or down a bit on the spot. Okay, that'll do. And then just put your hands on your stomach and wait for your breath to breathing to calm down. Whew. And then just while keeping your spine as vertical in as vertical a plane as possible, just bend your knees on as you breathe out. Make your breathing deliberate, and then breathe in and straighten your knees. So going down on an out breath, and then up on an in breath. Just do it roughly, get it roughly right, don't be perfectionist about it. Try and make your breath a bit longer each time if you can, slightly longer. And the next time you're breathing in, just bringing your hands up to your chin, and then turning at the chin and then taking them down to your hips on the out breath. Turning at the hips. This time keep going past your chin up into the air and then out to the sides. And slowly down the sides. Just imagine a ball, golden ball of energy coming up the middle of your body as you bring your hands up through the centre and then expanding out to a big ball at the top and then coming down. And again, so it's coming up the middle of your body. And opening your chest. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then take a seat on your meditation cushions or chair, whatever it is. So just getting used to this new position and trying to keep your body quiet. So I'm just going to put my case on. So what we're going to do is just listen to a recording of don't know how many, maybe 300 members of the Tree Ratna Buddhist Order doing the T Ratna Vandana in about 18 months ago at a convention, Order weekend, and then meditate after that. So, I'll recite what the verses mean, and then we'll meditate for like 10 minutes or something after that. So The T-Ratnavandana. So that's the T-Ratna Vandana, which means, T-Ratna means 3 jewels. So the 3 jewels are the Buddha. The most precious things in Buddhism are the Buddha, his teaching, the Dharma, and the community of Buddhists, the Sangha. And Vandana means salutation. So it's the salutation to the 3 jewels. So it's this is the translation. Such indeed is he, the richly endowed, the free, the fully and perfectly awake, equipped with knowledge and practice, the happily attained, knower of the worlds, guide unsurpassed of men to be tamed, the teacher of gods and men, meaning men and women, the awakened one, richly endowed. That's the Buddha. All my life I go for refuge to the awakened one, to all the awakened of the past, to all the awakened yet to be, to all the awakened that now are. My worship flows unceasingly. No other refuge than the wake. Refuge supreme is there for me. Oh, by the virtue of this truth, may grace abound and victory. And then the Dharma. Well communicated is the teaching of the richly endowed one, immediately apparent, perennial, of the nature of a personal invitation, progressive, to be understood individually by the wise. All my life I go for refuge to the truth, to all the truth teachings of the past, to all truth teachings yet to be, to all truth teachings that now are. My worship flows unceasingly. No other refuge than the truth. Refuge supreme is there for me. Oh, by the virtue of this truth, may grace abound and victory. And then the Sangha. Happily proceeding is the brotherhood of the hearers of the richly endowed one, uprightly proceeding, methodically proceeding, correctly proceeding, namely these four pairs of individuals, these 8 persons. This brotherhood of hearers of the richly endowed one is worthy of worship, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of salutation with folded hands, an incomparable source of goodness to the world. So the 8 persons refers to people who are quite attained. All my life I go for refuge to the brotherhood, to all the brotherhoods that were, to all the brotherhoods that are to be, to all the brotherhoods and sisterhoods that are. My worship flows unceasingly. No refuge but the brotherhood, refuge supreme is there for me. Oh, by the virtue of this truth, may grace abound and victory. So, meditation for 10 minutes. Just letting in those verses. And connecting with your own faith in Buddhism in the 3 joules to the extent that you have that. Okay, so bring your meditation to a close in your own time. So the beauty of doing these sessions is that as I carry on through the session, it starts to dawn on me, what various ideas that I've had over the years, that I could share. So I've just, woken up really to some of the ideas that I've had, around, and in this case, so this topic is about creating a sacred space. So I remember trying to understand what the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the Buddha's central teaching on mindfulness. Looking into the individual words, and so in there, the Buddha says the monk contemplates the body in the body, or contemplates feeling in feeling, and so the word. I sort of thought, well, what's this word? Why contemplation? What's that mean? Basically, the Latin root of contemplation is something around. So it's got templum in it, which is Latin for temple. In ancient, Roman religion, what would happen would be there'd be a priest who would look for augurs. So an augur is a happy sign or something, So you see it in like the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey. It's like Odysseus sees a sign. He sees an eagle fly off to the left, and it's a sign from the gods that either a good sign or a bad sign. So in a way, all temples, you could say all religions, all religious spaces are places for the contemplation of that particular belief system, and what the augurs of that are. So everyone's looking for a positive outcome. So when a Christian contemplates God or Christ, they're trying to connect not with ideas, but connect their hearts with what for them that mean, what the religion means, but with the idea that it will lead to some good coming out of it, some happiness coming out, something, some augur coming out of it. And it's the same with any religion, and sometimes religions have icons, and sometimes they don't want icons at all, like Islam doesn't want any icons in anything. But it's all symbolic of their particular belief system, and you just go into that space, or you enter into that religion, or you wear the clothing, and what that helps you do is it helps you to contemplate that religion, to tune into what the religion is saying, and to align yourself with it, and align yourself with the fact that in your mind it is leading. It's supposed to be leading to somewhere positive, to a good outcome. And in a way, contemplation just in terms of philosophy, when we say, oh, contemplate, contemplation in terms of thinking, it's the same thing in a way. It's like what we're looking for is a thought that's actually helpful, that's going to be helpful to us, that we can then use. So the question arises that I think when we think along these lines about respect between different religions. So people often get quite touchy about their particular their symbols being if they feel that their religion is being disrespected or something. So the word respect means just to look again. It's like, and in a way, when you respect something, it's like you actually allow it. You allow it as a possibility. So it's like respect between different religions is like allowing other religions as a possibility. So it's like we don't want to shut them out from our world, So putting a kind of a ban on burqas, it's like that. It's like wanting to shut out the possibility of other people having different views, So I think Buddhism is very tolerant of other religions, and I know that Buddhists have stepped forward to sort of like speak up for Muslims who are kind of getting persecuted and stuff. There's in terms of the boundary between religion itself and say like secular society or materialist society or science. So the biologist Stephen Jay Gould, he talks about this. He talks about religion and science being different magisteria. So it's like the different domains in a way that have a different aim. So in a way, the aim of science is to develop technology and to develop an understanding of the world that can then be used to make life easier. And it's all about knowledge and practicality and that sort of thing. And with science, you can only I trained as a physicist. Well, I didn't do any. I did a physics degree. So basically, people who understand science because they've done it. Science has lots of. It's all about errors. It's like you might do an experiment. And you say, well, the speed of light is this, plus or minus this. So this experiment is accurate to within 3% or something, but it's nothing is ever absolutely accurate. There's always an error, an uncertainty in it. But science is trying to kind of keep pushing the envelope in terms of how accurate it can be, and it's amazing what it's done. I mean, when I did my physics degree, the thought of being able to map the human genome, the DNA sequence, was like that would be seen as impossible. But it's only through computation that it's actually been able to be done. So the frontiers of science keep moving forward, and we're able to do more. With the physical world that we're in. But science can't say anything really. By its own methodology, it can't say anything about what's inside, what's not accessible to external observation. So it can't make any sort of decision about or say anything about what a good person is, for instance. What's what's wisdom. What's a why. What's wisdom or. That is a matter for the individual who, looking from the inside out at the world, for them to decide. So religions, in a way, are in that domain. They're about faith and belief, and what we as individuals can personally kind of decide about the way that things are. And religions often take off when science comes to an end. That it becomes a matter of personal experience. How do I cope with death, or how do I cope with disease, and that sort of thing. So yeah, in a way, so you get this boundary there. So maybe there needs to be a kind of respect at that boundary as well, that between science and religion, that each is doing something helpful, but it's kind of like doing something in a bit of a different area. So I was in debate at Butterfield with festival, and saying about, science gave us like the atom bomb, but it's up to individuals whether they use it or not. And or any tool can be used in a good way and in a not so good way. So yeah. So I think having a sense of this kind of boundary around things, boundary around religious spaces, around. So when looking again, respect, looking again. So when we're doing something like meditation, or particularly with a devotional ceremony, it's like it's good to be respectful around what might be happening for other people in that space. So other people will be trying to connect with something. So say when we're chanting a mantra, and the idea is that when you chant a mantra, it's like we're trying to do that in harmony with the other people there, and we can have the idea that what we're offering, if it's a mantra to the Buddha or to a Bodhisattva thing, what we're offering is it's like when you offer something, you want it to be the nicest offering you can make. So when we're offering chanting, it's like ideally we're looking for that offering to be beautiful and harmonious, and to carry with it some aesthetics, and that's an important aspect of the whole thing, because it's about the collective. It's about the collective experience, and it's about people's individual experience of the whole, of each other. So when people do harmonies in mantra chanting, but it's not very harmonious, it's like maybe it's more about them and what they might have connected with on a retreat or something, but the other people there are not. Maybe it's jarring for the other people to hear that, then that isn't very helpful. So it should be the case really that whoever's leading the ceremony sets the ground rules for it, and say, if you're going to do any harmonies, make sure that you're listening to what everybody else is doing, and it kind of fits in with them, with the whole. So like anything, religion, ritual can go, it can be helpful, it can be unhelpful sometimes, if it's because like people can have expectations that they're going to connect with the figure that the religious figure that they're focusing on, and if something's coming in and stopping that for them, then that isn't very helpful. So I think I'll just finish, but just by talking a little bit about when I went with a group of people from Manchester on a pilgrimage to India, to the holy sites of Buddhism, and just show some images from that. So here's a map of where we went. There's the Himalayas up there. So we started out down in Nagpur, down in the south, which is where Dr. Ambedkar converted to Buddhism and took millions of Indian Dalits with him. So that was great to visit there. And then we went up through Sanchi and Sravasti, where the Buddha spent, I think, 25 rainy seasons with his monks. And then to Kusinara, which is the place where the Buddha died. So there's a fantastic statue there of the Buddha lying down before he died. Sarnath, where he taught the Dharma to the 5 ascetics for the first time. What was amazing on the pilgrimage is to realise how far Sarnath is from Bodh Gaya. Bodh Gaya is where he gained enlightenment, and I think it's about 150 miles he walked, looking for, seeking out the 5 ascetics. We went to Nalanda University and different places. So at Bodh Gaya is the Mahabodhi temple, which marks the spot where the Buddha gained enlightenment. And so here's a group of Triratna Buddhist order on convention, Indian order members and Western order members meditating together at the Mahabodhi temple. So we had a convention for a week at Bodh Gaya, and we would walk in the morning in procession and then meditate together. You can book the space in front of the Bodhi tree where the Buddha gained enlightenment for groups, so the Tibetans would be there at different times of day, and so we were there for that week in the morning and in the evenings. And this is some of the so you got these like garlands of flowers. You could buy a plate of flowers outside the temple, and it's fantastic. Just like a plate of like chrysanthemums or something, and you'd offer them at the Bodhi tree, and around the Bodhi tree, people have sort of rubbed gold leaf into the stone. So took this picture out. This is a picture of Sangharakshita and Dada Rinpoche at Bodh Gaya in I don't know, late 40s or early 50s or something. And so we took the Buddhist flag. We took a shrine round with us and tried to kind of connect with a theme. So as we went round, I tried to do this thing where we kind of like we took took up a theme to reflect on, like spiritual friendship at a different site. Didn't quite work really, but anyway, it was a good intention. And here's just a bit where the Buddha would have walked up and down, and these are all the flowers just laid on top. And at the Mahabodhi temple, you get Buddhists from all the different Buddhist countries there, and all doing their practice. So that a lot of the Theravada monks and the lay followers dressed in white would all be going around chanting the Triratna Vandana, but they'd do it in a very different. They'd use a different tune or something, So, and then you get the Tibetans doing the prostrations, doing 100,000 prostrations on a board in front of they just set up camp really, and stay in hotels, cheap hotels, but like just kind of be there for a long time, and Tibetans would do they do prostrations all the way from Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, to Bodh Gaya. It's like hundreds of miles of take a step, prostrate on the ground, do some, you're imagining things and saying verses, and then get up and then take another step, prostrate in the ground. Do that for hundreds of miles. Incredibly devotional. There'll be Zen practitioners there, everyone doing their own thing. So yeah, so to visit Bodh Gaya, and place where the Buddha gained enlightenment, was so, and to just make those offerings ourselves is so kind of, I don't know, it's just enriched my Buddhist life ever since, really, just the memory. Okay, so today I've managed to pull myself together and talk a bit about creating a sacred space, and I've shown a few sacred spaces. I've talked about different religions and respecting different religions and what a temple is, and we've done a little bit of meditation and listened to the Triratna Buddhist order chanting the Triratna Vandana, and I've sort of shared what the meaning of that is. So that's it for today, and thanks for watching. And so tomorrow maybe we'll move on a little bit to what devotion is. So things like offering incense, offering candle, the symbolism behind those offerings. Bowing to a shrine, what that means. How we can understand that in a helpful kind of way. So I've got this thing that I invented called the 12-step bowing program. Just a way of breaking the bow down into logical steps that actually can take it out of the realm of I'm doing this, but I don't know why I'm doing it. So knowing why we're doing something is really helpful, because Buddhism is a religion where it has three grounds for faith: reason, it's got to make sense; intuition, it feels right; and experience, it works in experience. So these are the three grounds for having faith or confidence in Buddhism. So yeah, so making it make sense is helpful. So all right then, and so we'll have a short puja, threefold puja at 12:30 UK time today, and see you there. We had 6 yesterday, so if I don't have your details, just send me a message on Facebook and I'll include you. I'll send you an invitation. Okay, great. Thanks very much. Bye.